It's 15,000 years ago. You're a hunter-gatherer somewhere in Eurasia. Your life is basically wake up, try not to die, find food, try not to die again, sleep, repeat. And one night, around your fire in the middle of nowhere, you hear something rustling in the darkness just beyond the light. You freeze. A pair of yellow eyes blinks at you from the shadows. Now, most animals at this point would either run or attack. This one doesn't. It just sits there, watching you, and something about it makes you not throw your spear. That moment is probably where the entire story of dogs begins. Here's the thing. The story of how wolves became dogs is one of the strangest chapters in natural history. Because it didn't happen the way most people think. Humans didn't exactly plan it. There was no ancient guy who said, you know what, I'm going to domesticate an apex predator and turn it into a creature that cries when I leave the room for 30 seconds. It was way more chaotic than that. First, something important. Dogs aren't a separate species that existed naturally in the wild. They are, biologically, a domesticated subspecies of the gray wolf. Every dog that has ever existed, from the German Shepherd to the embarrassingly small Chihuahua, is descended from wolves, which means at some point, wolves and humans had a conversation that went very, very differently than it should have. When exactly did this happen? Scientists have been arguing about this for decades, and honestly, they're still arguing. The best current estimate puts domestication somewhere between 15,000 and 40,000 years ago. That's a huge range, and the reason is that the archaeological record is messy. DNA doesn't lie, but it does get confusing, and ancient bones don't come with timestamps. What we do know is this: dogs were the first domesticated animal. Not cows, not horses, not goats. Dogs, by a massive margin. Horses weren't domesticated until about 6,000 years ago. Dogs were already man's best friend when humans were still thousands of years away from inventing farming. This wasn't a planned agricultural decision. This happened deep in the Stone Age, probably multiple times in multiple places, before humans had even figured out how bread worked. Which raises the obvious question, how? And why would any human, at any point, look at a wolf, an animal capable of killing them, and decide this was a good idea? To understand that, you have to throw out almost everything Hollywood and children's books have taught you about how this relationship began. Here's where the classic romantic story completely falls apart. The old version goes, a brave prehistoric human finds a litter of wolf pups, takes them home, raises them, trains them, creates loyal companions. Beautiful, heartwarming. Completely not how it happened. Because here's what nobody tells you about wolves. They are not domesticable as adults. You can raise a wolf pup from birth, give it love and food and a warm bed, and it will still be fundamentally, biologically a wolf. It will still have wolf instincts. It will still be dangerous. Zoos have known this for centuries. The idea that some ancient human just tamed wolves through sheer force of will is the kind of thinking that gets people bitten. So if humans didn't intentionally domesticate wolves, what actually happened? The leading theory, the one with the most scientific support, is that wolves domesticated themselves. Read that again. As humans got better at hunting, they started generating something no other predator in the ecosystem produced at scale. Consistent, reliable garbage. Leftover bones, discarded scraps. For an opportunistic scavenger like a wolf, that's the equivalent of a restaurant opening in your neighborhood. So some wolves, not all, just some, started hanging around human camps, waiting for scraps. And the key detail is which wolves did this. It wasn't the big, dominant, aggressive ones. They wanted nothing to do with humans. The wolves that edged closer to the fires were the ones slightly less afraid, slightly calmer around the fire-wielding, spear-throwing creatures, and those wolves got fed. The aggressive ones that kept their distance had a harder time finding food and fewer offspring. Over many generations, this created a pressure nobody planned. The wolves closest to human camps were, by definition, the calmest, the friendliest, the least likely to flee. Their puppies inherited those tendencies. Natural selection, operating entirely without human intention, started nudging wolves toward us. And here's where something genuinely bizarre happens. Something scientists didn't fully understand until a Russian geneticist named Dmitry Belyaev ran one of the most fascinating experiments of the 20th century. In the 1950s, working in Soviet Russia, where genetics was officially considered pseudoscience, Belyaev found a workaround. Studying fox breeding for the fur industry. This is Soviet Russia in the 1950s we're talking about, a place where an entire field of biology was politically banned and where the wrong kind of research could genuinely end a career or worse. Belyaev's cover story of fox fur research wasn't just clever, it was necessary for the work to survive at all. Within a few generations, decades, not millennia, something strange happened. The foxes didn't just become friendlier, they changed physically. Floppy ears, curled tails, patches of white in their coats, rounder faces, different skull shapes. They started barking differently, seeking human attention, making eye contact. They started acting like dogs. Belyaev hadn't selected for any of those physical traits, only tameness. But selecting for one behavioral trait unlocked a whole cascade of physical changes. Scientists call this domestication syndrome. Tameness and a long list of other traits appear to be linked deep in the biology. Select for calm, and you get floppy ears as a bonus you never asked for. And crucially, this showed it doesn't take thousands of years. With strong pressure, a species can shift dramatically in a handful of generations. But here's a question nobody asked loudly enough. What did the humans do when the wolves started getting friendlier? Because this was a two-way street. At some point, some ancient person had to not throw their spear at the wolf near the fire, and the evidence suggests this happened differently in different places. East Asia, the Middle East, possibly Europe, all show genetic signatures of independent domestication events. Not one magical moment, a repeated pattern. Once humans realized a semi-tamed wolf could be useful, warning them of predators, helping track prey, acting as a living alarm, the relationship accelerated. Now there was active pressure from the human side too. Feed the friendly ones. Let them come closer. Begin selecting for the traits people preferred. A partnership formed, not because anyone planned it, but because it worked for both sides. Now let's talk about what domestication actually did to a brain, because dogs are cognitively different from wolves in remarkable ways. Point at something, and a dog looks where you're pointing. A wolf won't, even one raised by humans from birth. This isn't learned, it's genetic. Dogs evolved to read human gestures in a way no other animal matches. Dogs also make eye contact with humans in a way wolves never would. In wolf society, direct eye contact is a dominance challenge. It means a fight is coming. But dogs evolved to hold your gaze, to look to you for information. And when a dog looks into your eyes, both of your brains release oxytocin, the same bonding hormone released between a mother and her infant. You are chemically bonding with your dog. A carnivore that should, by all rights, want nothing to do with us has been biologically rewired to love us. Wolves, even hand-raised ones, simply don't do this. They can be affectionate in their own way, but that specific searching, sustained eye contact is something evolution built into dogs and dogs alone. Dogs even have a tiny facial muscle above their eyebrows that wolves don't have. It makes their face look sad and soft. The puppy dog eyes. It appears to have been directly selected for over thousands of years of domestication because it works on humans. It makes us want to take care of them. Your dog's ancestors spent 10,000 years evolving to make you want to choose them. By around 10,000 years ago, when humans were just starting to figure out farming, dogs were already deeply embedded in human society. We know because dogs start appearing in burials, human graves containing dog bones, not as food, but as companions, arranged carefully beside the person, sometimes with a hand resting on the animal. These were people who had lived alongside dogs and wanted them present in death as in life. In a world of brutal survival conditions, humans were spending emotional energy grieving their dogs. Think about the math of that for a second. These were people with a fraction of the resources you have, living lives that were shorter and harder in almost every measurable way, and they still chose to spend some of that scarce time and care on an animal that gave them nothing you could eat, wear, or trade. That impulse hasn't changed in 15,000 years. So what came next? After that initial wild domestication, humans took the wheel. Natural selection was replaced by deliberate breeding, and humans turned out to be wild about variety. Over thousands of years, we bred dogs for specific jobs: hunting, herding, guarding, sledding, even lapdogs for aristocrats. The genetic variation locked inside the dog genome was exploited into a range of shapes and temperaments unlike anything else in the animal kingdom. In roughly 15,000 years, nothing in evolutionary time, humans produced everything from the Great Dane to the Dachshund, from the greyhound built for speed to the bulldog, shaped like a sad loaf of bread. Most named breeds we know today were actually formalized only in the 19th century, when controlled breeding became something close to a competitive sport. Which brings us to now, and the strange relationship we have with these animals. Dogs live inside our homes, sleep in our beds, appear in our wills. We spend more on pet care than many countries spend on education. We develop genuine grief when they die. grief that resembles grief for human family. As far as our brains are concerned, that's basically what they are. None of this was planned. A wolf started eating garbage near a fire, got slightly less scared than its siblings, had puppies that were slightly less scared too, and 15,000 years later, someone is paying real money for artisanal, grain-free dog food. Evolution is patient, and it's a little bit hilarious, but here's the part worth sitting with. In almost every other case of animal domestication, humans were clearly in charge. We captured, penned, and bred animals for their meat, milk, or labor. The relationship was one-directional. Dogs are different. Dogs were participants in their own domestication from the very beginning. They approached us. Their brains changed to understand us in ways unique in the animal kingdom, and we changed too, neurologically and emotionally. There's a serious scientific argument that dogs contributed meaningfully to human success as a species. That without them, the story of human expansion could have looked measurably different. We didn't just create dogs. In a real sense, dogs helped create us. That wolf creeping toward the firelight 15,000 years ago wasn't just making a decision about food. In the slow, unconscious way evolution works, it was beginning a partnership that would outlast every empire and every language that's risen and fallen since. So the next time your dog falls asleep on your feet or loses its mind at the sound of your keys in the door, that happiness is 15,000 years old. It was built slowly, accidentally, and it was worth it for both of you. If this changed how you look at your dog, you know what to do. I'm Fred. I'll see you in the next one.